Hello. So today, I think I'm going to talk about being a medium. So I have discussed it before in previous videos, but this is a video dedicated to being a medium. So what I have found with other medium readings that I have received and heard about from my friends, because there was a time where I didn't know that all the people I was seeing everywhere were deceased people. I just used to go to malls and go to the supermarket and go for a walk or go watch a sunset on the beach, and there would just be lots of people everywhere hanging out with real people that everybody else could see. And I was just like, wow, the energy world is busy. And after a while I realized these are deceased people, and after a while I realized how to talk to them, how to hear their messages, how to share their messages. And through stories I heard from other people, because it was other people who encouraged me to explore this, and then through their stories I realized how I, as a unique individual, want to offer my services, because I found some of the stories unsatisfying. So the one medium was going, Sally sends her love. And then the lady was like, what about Sally? She sends her love. What about it? She says hi. And then my friend was like, and then? Does she have anything to say? What does she look like? Where is she? All these sorts of questions. And I was hearing people's feedback, and I was like, these are very practical questions. And I am a very practical person, and I really enjoy being practical. I'm like, I'm going to put that down as a focus, an area that I specialize in, which is a tangible experience. So when the people on the other side come through to connect with us, I will ask them certain questions. So you as the client will have an experience of where I will tell you certain things, but in my head, I have my own curiosities. I want to offer a practical, tangible experience. There are some very commonly asked questions, and I'm going to make sure that I can answer as many of them as possible so that you can have a well-rounded experience. But obviously each reading varies because everybody's needs are different, and maybe they do have very clear questions that they'd like to ask. But if it's left up to me, if someone says, I want to connect with my mother, and just whatever she says, then I'm like, right, I know exactly what I'm going to do. So I always look through the door. There's a door to my office over there, and I will always look to the door to see who comes through. If you've specified which person you'd like to speak to, usually they are the one who comes through. On rare occasion, somebody else has been waiting in the queue before this person, and they're like, no, I would like to say some stuff first. I've once even had the client came to, we had an online session, and the client asked questions about their specific loved one who passed over, and then there was this child, this young boy, the entire time. And this child wouldn't leave, and the child kept saying, tell mommy and daddy I'm safe. And then there was this whole thing, I could see who was with the child and everything, and this client was like, this isn't for me, what's going on? I don't understand, who is this? Like, I don't know any child that passed over, and these people you're describing, I don't know them. And then I was like, hang on. So then I was asking, can you give us some frame of reference? And then the child was like, they're next door. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, you could have started with that, but shame, it's a child, so, you know. So I asked my client, did your neighbors next door lose a child? And then my client was like, yes. And I'm like, please pass this message on to your neighbors. And this is a very interesting thing to do. So just by the way, if you do hire me for my services as a medium, not everyone believes in what I do, and that's okay, each to their own, you know, it is what it is. But if a message does come through for someone else and they don't believe in someone like me, tell them you had a dream. Most people will see a dream as a sweet sentiment, or it's all rubbish, but the idea is nice, or, you know, oh, that's very interesting. Oh, wouldn't it be lovely if it was true? But the whole point is you get the message across. So if you do ever hire me as a medium and there's a message for someone else, just keep that in mind. You can just say, I had a dream that Granny came through and that she sits with you on that chair while you talk to her, whatever the message might be. Yeah. So back to my procedure and my curiosities and my questions. So the person will walk into the room. There'll be something that I can describe about them, a mannerism, an appearance, the way that they dressed, the way their hair looked, or whatever it is, something will jump out at me, like a mannerism, basically, or yeah, those things that I described. Something will jump out, I will describe the scene, and then when the client realizes who this is, they'll be like, oh, that's my father. And we go, great. And then I will start asking their father questions. What was it like to pass over? And obviously we don't want to traumatize the client, so they will tell the truth. They never lie, they always tell the truth, but they will tell the truth in a certain way that is reassuring. But it's not a lie, keep that in mind. It's just a very loving way of telling the truth. Often people on the other side have described to me of how nice the carers were, all the doctors were nice, or when they passed over, they understood that the family couldn't be with them, but they remember they could feel somebody holding their hand, so they didn't feel so alone. So often it's messages like that of what it was like at the moment of passing, who were they aware of, were they in pain, all this sort of stuff. How fast was it like falling asleep, what was it like? So that's usually the first question I ask. The second question I ask is, who came to fetch you? So maybe your mother and your brother passed over, and your brother passed later, and then we ask the brother, who came to fetch you? And the brother might describe an older woman, and then my client will be going, oh my gosh, that's my mother came to fetch my brother. And then we're like, there we go. Because the majority of the time, our other loved ones who've already passed over, come to fetch the people that have just passed over. So I always ask, who came to fetch you? Because that's also extremely reassuring for you, the client, is to know that when they passed, they didn't get lost, that they found their way home back to the light. The third thing I ask them, what is it like where you are? So for some people, they still have a very human experience on the other side, as in they will describe scenes of nature. And for some people, it's perfectly okay. We create our reality, hey? So it's perfectly okay for someone in the afterlife to want to continue to sit on their favorite bench in their favorite park. That's okay. Everybody is different. The one person, deceased person, once described to me that their life had been very traumatic, and they were just having the most wonderful time. They were describing this sort of healing space. Yeah, it was a healing space where they felt surrounded by a lot of light. They felt a lot of pressure, touch of these light beings. My client immediately said, it's angels. And I was like, then it's angels. The way the client was showing it to me was just these beautiful, massive beings of light, like glowing rays of light. But the way I described it, it makes sense that my client would have said that they were angels, because that's in these people's frame of reference. And so that's beautiful. And so, yes, it turns out this deceased person had a traumatic past. And so it was extremely reassuring for the clients when I asked this deceased person, where are you now? And the deceased person described the scenario. The family were very satisfied and reassured, because that is something that brought them a lot of comfort. The next question I always ask is, do you visit? So this is to the deceased person. When do you visit? How do you visit? What time of day was it? How long ago was it? And everybody communicates differently. So some deceased people will communicate with me through feelings and visuals and scenarios. Other people will tell me, remember last week Thursday when you went to the supermarket? And I'm like, wow, okay, that's specific. So it's very different for everyone. So don't expect to all have the same experience when you hire me as a medium. It's, nobody is the same. No human is the same. Nobody thinks in the same way. We cannot all be identical to each other, and it's the same with our loved ones on the other side. They are uniquely themselves, and they all communicate in different ways. So yes, but I do ask them, when do you visit? How do you visit? Where were you? I ask a variety of questions just to try and give you the experience of knowing at which points they were sitting with you. Because sometimes my clients have these questions. Sometimes the deceased person will tell me, oh, she thinks about this and this and this and this and this, and then she misses me and she's wondering, can I hear her? Am I there? Was I there for this big event? The answer is yes, 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 yes. And then they will describe all the events that this deceased person went to. They'll describe all the events they went to, where they were sitting, all this sort of stuff. Because those are the questions I answered. And I always ask for examples. Where possible, depending on the communication abilities of this person on the other side, I ask for examples, which is very nice. Some people on the other side are psychic. They were psychic when they're alive and they're still psychic. I've even had an experience where a psychic deceased person gave the reading and I was the translator between the two worlds. So that was very interesting. Yeah, so it's different for everyone. And then sometimes people just have questions now that we are connected and we've asked the nice questions just to have a full-bodied or well-rounded experience. And then sometimes the clients still have a few questions. What do we do about the will? Or this person is trying to steal all the money. What do we do? So it's often very uncomfortable to talk about these things. Sometimes the deceased person can only apologize for the mess they created and they don't have answers. And sometimes they created a mess because they didn't know what to do in the first place, and now that's why they don't have answers, because we're just human. So they can try and help where they can, but they can't always. So not all questions that specific get answered, but the love that comes through. I don't cry easily, but some of these reconnections are so special. So special. And then I end up in tears as well. And then it's me and the client crying. And it's just like, Emma, you've got to pull yourself together now. You can't all be crying. And then I'm like, deep breath, try to get back into the zone. And then the deceased person will say something else. And me and the client again will be like, oh, it's so beautiful. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't happen too often, but sometimes it really is just extremely beautiful and meaningful. So much love. So if there ever is someone you would like to connect with, first of all, I'm so sorry for your loss. Second of all, don't be afraid to reach out to me. My website is happylight.co.za. All my information is in the write-up below this video. Please subscribe and like, and I'll hopefully hear from you soon. Okay, bye.
Please subscribe by clicking on my image.